Hello, everybody. It's Matthew Street. Welcome to my channel. As always, I truly appreciate you being here. And folks, what is the greatest live performance ever? Or another way to put it is, what would be the greatest live performance of all time musically? Oh, boy, there's so many over the decades since rock and roll started that we could look at. I mean, think about it. Imagine a time machine and going back to the early rock and roll pioneers and seeing somebody like Little Richard in his heyday in the mid-50s, cranking it out on that piano, rocking out on that piano. Or Buddy Holly, oh my goodness, on the Winter Dance Party tour. Remember his famous shows in London, over in the UK, that were iconic. So many. Elvis Presley. Some of his early shows before he really hit it big in the mid-50s when he was that hillbilly cat. Or you can even go later with Elvis, the 68 comeback special. That was an iconic live performance. Or Elvis at Madison Square Garden in 1972. Think about that. That's been touted as being one of the greatest live performances of all time. The Beatles. I've talked about it in several videos. The Washington Coliseum concert, that early first show in the USA. Oh my goodness. That could be touted as one of the greatest live performances ever. They were just on fire. The audience was on fire. It was just unreal. A year and a half later or so, we could talk about the Beatles at Shea Stadium. At the time, the greatest and largest outdoor musical event ever. Open-air event, open-air concert. Or you can even get into like a solo Beatle like Paul at his peak, Paul McCartney. 1976, Wings Over America tour. There are many iconic shows during that tour. Wow, the Rolling Stones, another one. I saw them in 89 and 1994. Unbelievable, iconic shows. Some of the greatest live shows I've ever seen. The Who, during their glory years. Oh my goodness, The Who. Led Zeppelin, never saw Led Zeppelin. Wish I did, friends of mine did. They said it was unreal to see Led Zeppelin live. Kiss, I did see Kiss, one of my first concerts ever in the mid to late 70s, but Kiss at Cobo Hall in 1975. Oh my goodness. AC/DC. I saw them on the Back in Black tour, London, 1980. Oh, Hammersmith Odeon. Oh my goodness. I could tout that as one of the greatest live shows I've ever seen. The Kinks. Whew. Saw them in Ipswich, UK, 1981, in a small, like 1,000-seater venue, theater. Unbelievable. I was leaning on the stage, front row. I could count that as one of my greatest live shows. Bob Dylan. I've never seen him, but people say Michael Jackson. My brother saw Prince, said that was one of the greatest live shows he ever saw. The Ramones. I saw them many times. Wow. You wish you had, if you never saw the Ramones, you wish you had a time machine and you could go back and see them. Oh, there's been people talked about Tina Turner in Rio in the late 80s. That was one of the greatest live performances ever. I had a cousin who saw Earth, Wind, and Fire and said it was the greatest live performance he had ever seen. Technically wise, musically wise, special effects wise. The Bee Gees, laugh if you will, but I saw the Bee Gees when they were just after their peak. It was like around 1990 or so. And they were an amazing live band. Now, I know it's all subjective. Bruce Springsteen, saw him on the Born in the USA tour and a couple of times after. He was great. 3-hour shows, marathons. It's all subjective. I get it. We like what we like. It could be we think something is the greatest live show because it's the artists we love. They're our favorite. Or we love their music. Or we love it when they play live, their production they put into the live show, or the special effects they put into the live show, or maybe we love the costumes they wear when they're doing a live show. Maybe it's the length of their show. Like I said, Springsteen, marathon shows, 3 hours. Paul McCartney does 2.5, 2 hour and 40-minute shows. You know, it could be the length that we are so engrossed with. Greatest live show ever. Pyrotechnics, maybe Kiss, the greatest pyrotechnic show ever, lasers, lights, whatever it is. But folks, I know what the greatest live performance of all time ever was. I know what it is. And I'm going to share it right now. What if you virtually had a show with none of that? None of it. There was no special production, no special effects, no costumes. The length of the show was so short. Wait till you hear about the length of the show. No pyrotechnics, no lasers, no lights. The artists didn't have special earpieces in their ear to pick up on certain sounds. There was no voice manipulation, no instrumentation manipulation, no pre-recorded tapes, just raw, amazing talent. During the daylight, we couldn't even have special lights because it's during the daytime in an outdoor venue, no frills, and not even your particular audience. It's a general audience. They're not all there just for you, and you're playing one short set in the middle of tons of other artists, well-known, loved artists, and you only get 20 minutes to do it, to win over that crowd. Yet, out of all the other artists at this open-air venue, your performance is so intense, so emotional and powerful and amazing that it becomes known through the years, through the ages, through the decades, known by millions to be the greatest live music performance of all time. What do you think of that? Well, I'm talking about the venue was Live Aid. July 13th, 1985, 40 years ago this year. 40 years, oh my God. It was a 2-venue benefit, and it was to raise awareness and funding for famine relief in Ethiopia and Africa to help the starving over there. Very good benefit. Brainchild of Bob Geldof and Midge Ure. I believe I'm pronouncing his name right, another artist from the UK. The 2 venues were Wembley Stadium, 72,000. JFK Stadium in Philadelphia, 100,000, I think, was at JFK Stadium. I think that stadium's long gone now. And at Wembley, that was in London. That was the other venue, as I said. So 172 at least thousand saw it live. But one estimated 1.9 billion saw this thing as it happened live on via satellite TV, whatever, and watched it live worldwide. And I was one of them. I sat that July 13th day. I was only 2 months. I was a newlywed, newly married, living in a second-floor apartment, no children yet, just me and my young wife, Mrs. Street, in that second-floor apartment with a little TV with 2 little speakers on the side of this little TV we had. Nice color TV, though. And MTV here in the United States, I don't know about other countries, but here in the United States, MTV was broadcasting the entire Live Aid all day from London and Philadelphia. And I had my little VCR out, and I put tape after tape. And to this day, if I go in my back cellar over here, I have a bin, and there's 6 VHS tapes in there. Live Aid 1, Live Aid 2, Live Aid 3, Live Aid 4, and all these VHS tapes from my original taping of the live broadcast. I still have it. I was in awe of all the different artists that appeared that day. And I'm going to show you a little list here in the side of one I could find of a list. But it's not even complete because like Rick Springfield's missing from the list and a couple others are missing from this list. They weren't on the DVD, I guess, or whatever. But there was tons of great popular artists. And what I'm talking about right now, my big reveal, is the greatest live performance of all time, in my opinion, above everything I've spoken about earlier in this video, and they're all wonderful. I've seen many wonderful live shows throughout my life. I'm sure you have. But I'm talking about the 21-minute set near the end of Live Aid in London at Wembley Stadium, the 21-minute set by Queen that started, I want to say it started about 6-something p.m. UK time. That performance by Queen, 20 stinking minutes, has been voted the greatest live performance in the history of rock and roll. And this was in a 2005 industry poll. And there's been many other people that have talked about this and agree that that was the greatest live performance ever. Now, you may disagree. Oh, it's all subjective. You know, maybe you're a big such and such fan and you think their performance was the greatest. Folks, there's been a lot of great live performances. I'm here to confirm that. There have been. There have been some groundbreaking live performances throughout the decades, going back to the 50s when rock and roll started. But I'm sorry, I have to agree. Queen at Live Aid on July 13th, 1985, the 21-minute set they put out is the greatest live performance of all time. They stole the show, folks. They stole the show. It was one of the greatest displays of musical unity and harmony between an artist and an audience I have ever witnessed or seen. Before or since. I've never seen anything like it. It was just a magical moment, a magical live performance where Queen, who normally played like an hour and 45, 2-hour set, whatever their normal concerts were, full of lights and lasers and special costumes and special effects and smoke and all that good stuff. They had none of that for this 20-minute performance. They basically took their full, almost 2-hour live show set, and they were able to get every beautiful aspect of their live show and bring it into that 20 minutes, condense it into that 20 minutes, and then explode it onto the audience live that day and the millions and billions around the world. It was unbelievable. No lights. Like I said, no lasers. They weren't wearing their usual stage costumes. No extras. Back then, which I think was positive, no cell phones. Not everyone holding up a cell phone taping. Just human beings connecting with the music and one another in that audience and with the people at home watching live on television like myself. People connecting and the music bringing people together. That's what it's about, folks. That's what makes it so special. For 21 minutes, Queen was in sync with that audience around the world, and they were perfect. Perfect set of songs and presentation. Now, I've seen a lot, folks. I've seen a lot of live stuff. Like I said earlier, seeing many of the biggies over my years. I've seen them all. But every time I get the hankering to see this performance of Queen at Live Aid, I get emotional. I don't care how many times I've seen it, but when that comes up on my TV or I click into YouTube or I have a DVD of it as well somewhere, I get emotional watching it. If you immerse yourselves into that 21 minutes, you can't help it. You'd have to check your pulse if you don't get emotional when you watch their performance from that day. I got emotional then when it happened. I saw every artist that day in Philly and in London, and many were great. There were many wonderful moments, special, forever, may never happen again moments on those stages back then in 1985. But I'm sorry, no performance got to me more spiritually, emotionally, deep in my heart and soul and spirit than the 21-minute Queen set at Live Aid. And I know of it firsthand in a sense because just a little over 4 years earlier, I had seen them in London when I was in the service over in the UK. I saw them in London at Wembley Arena. Instead of playing Wembley Stadium, which was right next door, 72,000, they did like 8 or 9 gigs or something in a row at Wembley Arena, which was like a 10 or 11,000 seater, maybe a little under 10. So they were playing to about the same amount of people, but over like 9, 10 nights, whatever it was. And I saw one near the end of that run. And folks, it was life-changing. Queen live, Freddie Mercury has to be the greatest frontman of all time. I mean, he has to be. And there's many great frontmen. I get it. A lot of great frontmen. But this show still affects every person, young or old, who still sees that 21-minute set by Queen at Live Aid. It affects them. It grabs them. If they've never seen it before, it hits them emotionally. It hits them hard. I've seen it. I've played it for people I know, young and old. And if they've never witnessed it or experienced before, they get taken on a journey to an emotional roller coaster that you just can't even fathom it. It's just so unbelievable to witness it and experience it yourself. So it was truly breathtaking moment in time. I am a fan of Queen. They're not, probably not in my top 5 favorite artists of all time, but they're up there in the top 10 or 15 favorite artists of all time for me. I love Queen, love Freddie, Brian May, talent, John Deacon, talent, Roger Taylor, talent, all songwriters, all can sing, all can play. Freddie, needless to say anything about Freddie Mercury, may he rest in peace. We miss him every day. He was the greatest. He really was. So, folks, I know this ran on a little bit, but I just wanted to share with you what I think, and I truly believe it, folks. The greatest live musical performance of all time was Queen at Live Aid, July 13th, 1985. 21 minutes of musical and emotional bliss. It was just, I don't know what else to say. That's it, folks. Let me know what you think. Please subscribe so we can get more content like this, and let me know what you think some of your favorite live performances were. I have many, but Queen, Live Aid, the greatest ever. Bye-bye.